Have you ever wondered what life would feel like in your golden years if you were all alone? No kids nearby, no partner, just silence echoing through empty rooms. Today's story isn't just about growing older. It's about finding purpose when the world seems to move on without you. You're watching Elderly Active Life, the channel that shares inspiring stories, advice, and daily content made exclusively for seniors. Be sure to like this video and subscribe so you never miss an update that could touch your heart or brighten your day. Meet George Miller, a 63-year-old retired public service worker from Ohio. After a department shakeup forced him into early retirement, George thought he'd enjoy some peace and quiet. But what he didn't expect was just how lonely life could become. Years earlier, his house had been full. His loving wife, Susan, and their children, Brian and Chloe, made it a home. But time did what it always does. Susan passed after a long illness. Brian and Chloe moved out of state, busy raising families of their own. Suddenly, George was alone, in a house once full of life, now filled with silence. One evening, sitting on the couch, he felt the quiet closing in like a heavy blanket. That's when the phone rang. It was Brian. "Hey, Dad, we were going to stop by, but work ran late. Maybe next week?" George smiled and said, "Don't worry, son. I'm okay." But after the call, the silence felt even louder. He missed the hustle of family life, the comfort of companionship, even the small chaos of everyday moments. He started eating dinner in front of the TV. Unread newspapers piled up. Weeks began to blend together. The next day, his neighbor, Mr. Harris, dropped in. Like George, he too had lost his wife. Their kids were grown, their homes now empty. He looked George in the eye and asked a question that lingered. "If it's really just you in this big house someday, what's your plan?" That night, George lay awake. That simple question echoed in his mind. George knew he needed to make changes. Are you or someone you know navigating this season of life alone? Leave a comment below and share your experience. You're not alone, and your story could help someone else feel seen. He began organizing his finances, making sure he'd be covered for medical costs, bills, and emergencies. Then came the emotional prep. Mr. Harris had said, "Stay active, don't isolate. Go to the park, join a club, move your body." George started stretching in the mornings, visiting the local senior center in the evenings. He played chess, joined group walks, even learned how to cook new dishes. He tried watercolor painting and wrote in a journal for the first time since college, and it helped. His days had color again, but the nights, they were still too quiet. George realized what was missing: companionship. He wrestled with guilt. Was it too soon after Susan? Was it selfish to want someone new? When he finally confided in Mr. Harris, the answer was simple. You're not replacing anyone. You're continuing to live. That's when he met Carol Simmons, a kind-spirited woman at the center. They began chatting, walking together, cooking dinner now and then. Before long, they were spending most days together. Carol eventually moved in. No wedding, no fuss, just two people who chose not to face life's last chapters alone. They spent mornings in the garden, evenings watching old movies, and Sundays volunteering at the local church kitchen. One winter, George fell ill with a bad fever. Carol stepped in, caring for him, calling Brian, and even rushing him to the doctor. It was then that Brian realized just how much Carol meant to his father. "Dad," he said, "you should have called me." George smiled and replied, "I didn't want to worry you. Carol's taken good care of me." It was a turning point for their family, a realization that love in later life was still love. But life has a way of changing course. Carol's son called with big news. He was getting married and needed his mom to help prepare. Though torn, George encouraged her to go. "I'll be fine," he said. But deep down, he wasn't. When she boarded that bus, he felt like a chapter had ended. Again. They kept in touch. Letters, phone calls. But something had shifted. Distance and time created space. And eventually it was clear. She wouldn't be coming back. The silence returned, heavier this time. His children checked in more often, but George knew they had their own lives. After some soul-searching, he made a decision. He'd move into a senior living community. At first, his kids were hesitant. "Won't it be depressing, Dad?" George answered with wisdom, "It's not about giving up. It's about having a stable, safe place, with people around, just in case." The move brought fresh air into his life again. Gardens, game nights, Tai Chi in the mornings. New friends like Mr. Vernon made it easier to settle in. He started a small book club. He began mentoring a younger staff member named Josiah, who reminded him of Brian. By the way, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps us keep bringing stories like this to life for our wonderful elderly active life community. One sunny afternoon, George got a call from Brian. Carol had been in a serious car crash, ICU, not looking good. He rushed to the hospital, heart pounding. When he saw her, barely conscious, he held her hand. "Carol, it's me. Stay with me." With her last ounce of strength, she whispered, "George, live well." And just like that, she was gone. The days after were blurry. Grief came in waves. He didn't speak for a week. The staff gave him space. Mr. Vernon sat beside him on the bench outside, saying nothing, just offering presents. But then something changed. George saw a new resident, a man who looked as lost as he once felt. He walked over, gently placed a hand on his shoulder, and said, "Want to join me for a walk?" That small moment of kindness sparked something. George remembered that while loss never leaves, neither does the chance to help someone else. A new friendship was formed. The cycle of connection continued. In spring, George began volunteering to teach a gardening class for residents. His fingers in the soil, his eyes on budding blooms. He rediscovered patience, growth, life. One afternoon, Ellie, his granddaughter, visited. "Grandpa, these flowers smell like Grandma's perfume," she said. George smiled. "That's because we planted love in them." He began writing letters to seniors who were housebound, including poems and stories from his youth. Local schools began inviting him to speak about his career in public service and the importance of resilience. George became more than a resident. He became a bridge between generations, between grief and healing, between loss and life. Aging isn't easy. Losing loved ones never gets easier. But even in our darkest moments, we can choose connection. We can choose life. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Elderly Active Life, where every day we bring you real stories, practical advice, and heartfelt wisdom just for seniors like you. You're never truly alone, not when you choose to keep living and loving.